And so that's why it's been such a long time coming for me to have this direct conversation, because I had to get comfortable with it myself, telling people you need to start judging your God, because if you can't judge your God, you can't think critically about what you believe. You may not actually believe it. That's what we need to get into, is that people think they're actually Christian or an adherent follower, aka a follower of whatever religion that they're currently following, rather than a captive, a victim, and someone. And I think captive is a really good word. You were forced into it for one reason or the other. Parents, fear, FOMO. You just don't want to miss out. You're trying to create community, so you decided to get in with a group, adopt some beliefs as best you can so you could be a part of that group to find security for whatever reason it is. But know this, you're not actually an adherent of that religion. That you are more or less, you're not a follower, sorry. Adherent is a very old word. You're not actually a follower of that God. You're not a believer. You're just adopting. You're intellectually acquiescing, as I've said in other videos. You're intellectually acquiescing and consenting to the existence of something that you don't believe in, but you have to say what you gotta say to get that end of life insurance. That's what Christians have. It's really odd. That it's that end of life insurance in which they're going to go to heaven. So no matter how much you suffer here, if you adopt the correct beliefs, you will in the end find eternal rest. That's what they say. People who've gone through NDEs, gone out of body. I don't even think I've talked about that on my channel. Yeah, that's more esoterica. But they come back with these tales that what they believed and conceived of occurred, and so it causes people to dive even further into adopting end of life insurance when without proof. I'm not on this video telling what you should believe and should not believe. I'm not saying that your God does not exist. What I am in this series is telling you need to judge your God. You need to look at what's the results of its handiwork. Okay, how throughout time have its adherents, its followers, how do they act when adversity comes? What decisions do they make? When they look in the face of genocide, do they say that yeah, that's okay, that's warranted? You see a lot in Christianity, you see a lot in Abrahamic religions that genocide is okay if your God, whether or not your God is actually yourself, says it's okay. Problem is when it becomes canonized in a book and people have decided to believe that book is the inspired word of God instead of words of men, talking about what they perceived, about what they believed, and there are people who you don't know, so you don't get the video footage of them showing you who they are. Instead, you're required to accept what is written in that book and their beliefs and the things that people say about those beliefs, because you can't test it. It's a problem. Okay. That is why I tell you, you're being given, and more than you realize, you're being given an opportunity to take a look at, man, when adversity comes, not just adversity, just everyday life. When things aren't good, your egregore is being put to task. Okay? And unfortunately, sorry, it's a lot of cars. Unfortunately, people think that because things are going good, that their God exists, that their God is being good, and that their God is helping them to prosper. But that's a whole other conversation. But what I want you to do as the years progress now, I want you to critically think about what you believe. Ask yourself why you should believe it. And I want you to critically think about what Christians, I'll just stick with Christians because that's what the original video that I have attached to the series is doing. It's telling you, do you see how Christians are? Do you see the lack of critical thinking? Do you see the adoption of dogma? Do you see that they are at the seat, the heart of the bad decision making that goes on, that results in the loss of life, that adopts all kinds of barbarism, that one of a very unique and disgusting form of slavery, chattel slavery. Oh, that's Christians. Yeah. So do you see, it's not just about, because I know if a person of color, starts talking about that, people, cognitive dissonance. So hold up. What I want to say is you still need to launch into judging your God. You need to examine that God's handiwork. You need to examine the people. As I said in another video, when that group of people throughout history has shown you who they are, and that God has not taken the time to chasten those people, to protect its good name. I've done this for years now, talking about that God. It's like he can't be bothered to protect its own lore, its own history, the things that people know or believe about them. When someone's abusing thousands of children in its church, out of its church, in its name, I mean, the children, you didn't stop the essay there. Why is that? You got to ask yourself. And some people have actually started going on the journey, I have too, saying, this might be a situation, especially as an intuitive, as a person who's told you on my channels what I do. And I've explained to you all that there are things that exist that breach the bounds of your five senses. And I've explained in former videos that human beings are like the people in Plato's cave. They really don't. They're blind and they're deaf. And human beings, unfortunately, currently suffer from a limitation that puts them in the position of being scammed by the things that they cannot perceive. Okay? That you can see that in your own human life. And so I say all that to say that, I'm not an atheist and the kind of person who's going to tell you there aren't things that exist, that there aren't extra dimensional entities, I'm not going to tell you that there aren't, like I've explained to you all on this planet, it's more things, reality is more complicated, than you believe, than you perceive. Sorry. So reality is more complicated than you think on this planet, and people need to understand that the things that they encounter are just reality. I've told you that for years on this channel, is that it's all just reality. People need to stop calling it the supernatural. Just because, like, here's the thing. Here's the example. A cheetah can run faster than me. And there are people who are stronger than me. There are things in my natural world that tell me that, hey, as a human being, and should tell you all that you have your limitations. And so I'm confused by the fact that people will realize that they are a limited species, and yet still worship something that is stronger than they are and has more capacity than they are, right? And so it's weird once you get into it. But I'll cap it at this on this video, because I need to stop yapping for the day. Human beings, again, I keep saying the same thing, and I'm tying all these things that I've been talking about on this channel, that reality is more expansive than you think. The human beings have decided to worship things that they should not, really. That things that could have created an experience with a limited group of people, right? That people at a very specific time experienced certain phenomena, very undereducated people, out in the fields, out in the woods or the pastures, herding sheep, that they experienced things that they didn't really have the kind of education, the vocabulary to express, but that they expressed those interactions to others, and that they aggregated those interactions in a book, in a religion, and they have decided to worship that which may not even should be worshiped, that should have been considered a shepherd, something that gave a very specific group of people advice at a specific time. And so until you're ready to look at and think critically about what you believe, to go through the process that I just went through, it's just me thinking about it critically. Like, hey, maybe we should lean into the shepherd part, that you are doing yourself a disservice.